says the general, being only too glad to get him back at all. So then in 10 minutes there wouldn't be a buck in camp, but next morning they shows up again, each with about 50 head of hosses. "Where'd you get those hosses?" asks the general, suspicious. "Had 'em pastured in the hills," answers Geronimo. "I can't take all those hosses with me. I believe they're stolen," says the general. "My people cannot go without their hosses," says Geronimo. So across the line they goes, and back to the reservation. In about a week, there's 52 frantic greasers wanting to know where's their hosses. The army is nothing but an importer of stolen stock, and knows it, and can't help it. Well, as I says, I'm between Camp Apache and the Mexican line, so that every raiding party goes right on past me. The point is that I'm 1,000 feet or so above the valley, and the renegades is in such a devil of a hurry about that time that they never stop to climb up and collect me. Often I've watched them trailing down the valley in a cloud of dust. Then in a day or two a squad of soldiers would come up and camp at my spring for a while. They used to send soldiers to guard every water hole in the country so the renegades couldn't get water. After a while, from not being bothered none, I got thinking I wasn't worthwhile with them. Me and Johnny Hooper were pecking away at the old Virginia mine then. We'd got down about 60 feet, all timbered, and was thinking of cross-cutting. One day Johnny went to town, and that same day I got in a hurry and left my gun at camp. I worked all the morning down at the bottom of the shaft, and when I see by the sun it was getting along towards noon, I put in 3 good shots, tamped them down, lit the fuses, and started to climb out. It ain't no ways pleasant to light a fuse in a shaft, and then have to climb out a 50-foot ladder with it burning behind you. I never did get used to it. You keep thinking, now suppose there's a flaw in that fuse, or something, and she goes off in 6 seconds instead of 2 minutes. Where'll you be then? It would give you a good boost towards your home on high anyway. So I climbed fast and stuck my head out the top without looking, and then I froze solid enough. There, about 50 feet away, climbing up the hill on mighty tired horses, was a dozen of the ugliest Chiricahuas you ever don't want to meet, and in addition, a Mexican renegade named Maria, who was worse than any of them. I see once the horses were tired out, and they had a notion of camping at my water hole, not knowing nothing about the old Virginia mine. For 2 bits, I'd have let go all holts and dropped backwards, trusting to my thick head for easy lighting. Then I heard a little fizz and sputter from below. At that my hair rizzed right up so I could feel the breeze blow under my hat. For about 6 seconds I stood there like an imbecile, grinning amiably. Then one of the Chiricahuas made a sort of grunt, and I saved that they'd seen the original exhibit your Uncle Jim was making of himself. Then that fuse gave another sputter, and one of the Apaches said, "Unda." That means white man. It was harder to turn my head than if I'd had a stiff neck, but I managed to do it, and I see that my ore dump wasn't more than 10 foot away. I mighty near overjumped it, and the next I knew I was on one side of it and those Apaches on the other. Probably I flew. Leastways, I don't seem to remember jumping. That didn't seem to do me much good. The renegades were grinning and laughing to think how easy a thing they had, and I couldn't rightly think up any arguments against that notion, at least from their standpoint. They were chattering away to each other in Mexican for the benefit of Maria. Oh, they had me all distributed, down to my suspender buttons, and me squatting behind that ore dump about as formidable as a brush rabbit. Then, all at once, one of my shots went off down in the shaft. "Boom!" says she, plenty big, and a slather of rock and stones come out of the mouth and began to dump down promiscuous on the scenery. I got one little one in the shoulder blade and found time to wish my ore dump had a roof. But those renegades caught it square in the thick of trouble. One got knocked out entirely for a minute by a nice piece of country rock in the head. "Otra vez," yells I, which means again. "Boom!" goes the old Virginia, prompt as an answer. I put in my time dodging, but when I gets a chance to look, the Apaches has all got to cover and is looking scared. "Otra vez," yells I again. "Boom," says the old Virginia. This was the biggest shot of the lot, and she surely cut loose. I ought to have been halfway up the hill watching things from a safe distance, but I wasn't. Lucky for me, the shaft was a little on the drift, so she didn't quite shoot my way, but she distributed about a ton over those renegades. They sort of half got to their feet uncertain. "Otra vez," yells I once more, as bold as if I could keep her shooting all day. It was just a cold, raw blazer, and if it didn't go through, I could see me as an Apache parlor ornament. But it did.